welcome everybody. Right now we have 22 participants, but we will begin. We are already late by 3 minutes, so we will begin. Good evening everybody, and thank you for joining this session. There are more people.
Am I audible?
Yes.
I have a problem with connectivity.
Okay, we will start. We will start as people start coming in. I'll keep admitting them, but we will start.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
The
Everybody.
voice is not clear.
Is my voice clear?
Yes. Now, yes. Am I audible?
Is my voice clear now?
Hello.
Hello, yeah?
Yes, Ajay, we can hear you. Ajay, we can hear you.
Okay.
I think
I will be audible better if everybody can. Please everybody mute your microphone. If everybody puts the microphone on mute, I'll be audible better. Okay, thank you everybody. Today we are talking mainly about data privacy. And
Hello.
am I audible?
Now I am getting your voice.
Okay. Kindly put your microphone on mute. I'll be audible a little better.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah. Kindly put your microphone on mute, everybody. Okay, today we are mainly talking about data privacy. What is data? What is personal data? What is sensitive data? What is big data? And what is data privacy? And what is the privacy of person in context, especially in the context of the children? As you all know that in the last few days, just a second, I have to admit people, do not put it on. In the last few days, the incidences of child pornography and child sexual abuse material has increased a lot. We have seen it in the newspaper and the media in various newspapers. It has come, and also it has come on in the television. Let's now talk about what is data, what is personal data, and what is sensitive data, and what do we mean by big data. We all have heard that data is the new gold, but what does it actually mean?
काम करो यार, तुम मुझे ना WhatsApp पे आ जाओ, मैं वहाँ डिस्कस करूँ, क्योंकि एक कान से मैं उसको सुन रही हूँ, एक कान से मैं सुन रही हूँ. हाँ, WhatsApp पे आ जाओ, मैं बता देती हूँ. ओके.
Okay. We all hear that data is the new gold, but what does it actually mean? What kind of data is the new gold? Are we talking about, when we are talking about data is the new gold, what kind of data? Are we talking about this kind of data? The data that we collect in the field, the data we collect for surveys, different kind of surveys that we do in the schools, in the communities, this kind of data, or we mean the data that is collected from the social media sites, the insurance agencies, the travel agencies, the hotels, and places like Ola and Uber. Actually, when we are talking about data being the new gold, we are mainly talking about the data which is collected at a very large scale. It is collected, the data collection is in huge volume. The velocity of data is also very high, and the variety of data is also very, very big. And all the data that is collected, they are put for different types of use. All the data are analyzed through processes of automation. Processes of automation using machine learning and artificial intelligence. Once that kind of data is available, then that is when that is put to use, that gives data a real meaning, not our small data, the data that we collect in the field, but the data that are used in combination. The data of our likes, of our dislikes, where we have traveled, what kind of clothes do we wear, where do we go, whom we talk with, where do we check in, what is our financial status, what is our date of birth, what is my mother's name, the picture of my mother, the picture of my daughter or son. So you would be seeing, especially that in Facebook and Instagram, there is always a new challenge that is coming up. Post a picture of yours 10 years back and now. Post an old picture of yours. Why are these things happening? What do you think actually is being collected? Is it a game only for us, or there is something more behind the scene? Actually, it is all towards collection of big data. It is all used to create our digital identities. Our digital identities is a combination of many, many things. Our digital identities are created through all the data that we share on different platforms. You might have seen, how many of you would have seen this kind of images? Whenever we download any application, somebody is putting a cross, I'll have to disable this thing. Okay. How many of you have seen this kind of, whenever we download any application, this is the kind of permission that we are asked. It asks for various kind of permission, having full network access, having access to our Wi-Fi, view network connectivity. And because of this permission, our safety and security is compromised. One of the most critical issues that relates to big data is the impact on their digital identities over their life course. It is different for the adults, and it is different for the children. Actually, then our network self, what we call it as our network self, is actually an amalgam of identities that are created across multiple online platforms, constituted by an array of social media tools. This digital identity, which is created with the help of big data, big analysis, automated analysis, is extremely dynamic and keeps changing and updating as the software platforms are constantly busy in the acquisition and processing of information. It is happening all the time. It's not, it is happening behind our, it is happening behind our back also. Our engagement with platforms like social media, microblogging sites, they are source of big data. Now let us try and understand what is big data and what is metadata, and how big data and metadata, the combination of big data and metadata is it becomes very, metadata is actually which, like, if you would be asking, there would be like cookie policy for several websites. And they would be asking for, like, they will be collecting certain data like our location, at which IP at what our likes and dislikes. So this data in combination with metadata becomes very, very dangerous. Big data and metadata have the potential to seriously threaten individuals' rights to keep their personal and sensitive information private. Now, the main question is, big data also raises a lot of ethical issues. Like, this data doesn't have any peer review process, it doesn't have any audit, and the algorithm that is written for its analysis, is also not ethical. So we are talking mainly about the ethics of algorithm that we are writing, because based on that the digital identity formation is based. The data that is collected from and of children at any uncertain point in future can be utilized in various indeterminate. We are not very sure that how will it be used in future. What kind of algorithm will be written? The digital identities, how will it be? We have no control right now. We are mainly now talking about ethical algorithm, the peer review and audit of data and findings, control of data, how it is stored, how it is processed, who has the right, and what is the usage. And we all know that there are privacy policies. The privacy policies are there, but the main problem is in the access control mechanism. Let us try and understand that the privacy policies have various provisions. They are adhered to, meaning our data is private. But that private data, where is it stored? Who has the access? Whether that access control mechanism is safe or not, that is highly questionable. We do not have enough laws and policies for that. Now let us try and understand, why are children more unsafe? What is the extra risk to them? Children are actually, we have a concept of digital native and digital immigrant. All the adults, please put your microphone on mute, everybody. Please put your microphone on mute. What is the extra risk to children? There is a concept of digital native and digital immigrant. All the adults who are above, say, about 25 years of age are digital immigrants. The children are digital native. Children only know a world where they have seen only this world where it is about internet and data. So their digital identities can be formed and formulated from the cradle to the grave, meaning their whole identity, what they are, what are their likes and dislikes, where have they been, who are their friends. So that kind of identity formation of the child is right from the beginning to the end of his or her life. So the child is impetuous by nature, meaning wants to take risks. And this is especially children of younger age, because if you look at the law, the social media permission to have account on social media is 14 years. But we have a lot of children below the age of 14 years having account on social media. So that puts them at extra risk. For the state and the society to ensure children's rights in digital era, there has to be very clear understanding of the fast changing, highly complex and transnational nature of socio-technological infrastructure, and realization and acceptance of the fact that internet is largely blind to age. Internet doesn't see or know in theory that the person accessing is male or female, or a child or an adult. It is as per our reporting. The tasks at hand are very, very complex, and the solution to the problems are largely unknown. Like all ethical and philosophical conundrums, there are frameworks that provide some guidance, but rarely give specific details of problems and solution. The main devil is in the details. So I would be now requesting Bhavna to make the presentation. Bhavna? And talk about the details of Personal Data Protection Bill. Bhavna, if you can start now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I can hear you. Is my voice audible?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your all the valuable information with all the viewers out here. From my side, a very good evening to all of you. I hope everybody is safe at their places during this that we are facing. Along with this, we are also facing another issue. During this lockdown time, please mute your during this lockdown period, if I see that cyber crimes such as data stealing, data hacking, extortion, then cyber pornography, cyber frauds are increasing at a rapid rate. Specifically, in the month of March, cyber crimes have taken a huge jump out of all. I would like to tell you that as per the report of ICPF, that is India Child Protection Fund, there is a 100% hike on demand of child pornography from India. This is the data as collected by Pornhub. Among all the prevalent cyber crimes, the cyber crime that hits the most is those that hit your privacy. That is hitting the privacy right of an individual in the cyberspace. And the most vulnerable section to this society is the children. Due to their innocent character and due to their unknowing nature, they don't even give a second thought before they share their personal information, or when they are sharing their pictures, or when they are sharing any kind of video in which he themselves are there. They do not give a second thought before sharing it on the online website. They do not know what the consequences that might can happen when they share these kind of information on the online platform. In India, 40% of the Indian population constitute who are the people under 18. So in India, 40% of the people are children. And you will be amazed to hear that out of this 40%, 66 million children between the age of 5 and 11 are there who uses internet access through the websites or through the devices of their parents. Imagine a child of 5 and 11 years of age. They are accessing the internet. And 66 million is a huge number. This is not even the population of other countries that we have. This much is such a huge group that is being hit by the privacy rights. amid lockdown, the children are spending maximum of their time online only. May it be social gaming, then other social networking sites, and even their online classes and even their assignments are also sent through online mode only, through in their emails or on the WhatsApp groups. So what we can see is we cannot restrict their practices online, but we cannot deny the fact that they are high risk of getting their privacy infringed. Now, being a citizen of India or being a parent, being a guardian or being a teacher, it is very important for us that we should know the legal aspect that are available in India that deals with data privacy. It is very important for us that we should know all the legal norms and legal remedies that we have. Let's discuss this one by one. First of all, let's talk about the present law that we have in our country, that is Information Technology Act 2000. Though in this article or in this act, there are not so many provisions that deal with data privacy, but there are few I would like to mention that as per section 43A, any body corporate, if it is holding any of the information of any individual, may it be his employees or his consumers, and if he fails to protect the information of those people, he will be liable to pay a maximum fine of 5 crore rupees. And can you imagine? 5 crore rupees is a huge amount. This is the maximum penalty that we have in any other law in India. It is only in the Information Technology Act that we have such a higher penalty. Now I have used the word body corporate. So let's understand who are body corporate and who will be held liable if they are not able to protect the information of any individual if they are holding it. So I would request sir that can he please place the...
It's there.
Let me give you the definition of body corporate. A body corporate is any company, any firm or any sole proprietor or any group of individual that holds any commercial activity or any professional activity. So a body corporate is any person who has grouped together or is a company or is a firm, but they are dealing into either commercial activity or in professional activity. Let's take a view who can be the body corporates. Let's take a view on the slide here. Sir, can you please play the second slide?
It's displayed.
It
is there.
Okay. Okay, fine. So you can see body corporates are Facebook. As Facebook holds your information, it will be a body corporate. Then Twitter, then Instagram, then even University Grant Commission, that is the UGC, it is also considered as body corporate. Also Google, then Hathway, then even IIT Bombay, institutes like educational institutes, even the schools, they are also considered body corporate. So if they are holding the information of their employees or of their students, and if they fail to protect such information, they will be liable to pay the penalty as per ITA Act. I hope you are clear with who are body corporates and who will be liable if they breach any kind of data privacy of any individual. As now we are talking about body corporate, there is another thing that is also very much important when it comes to increasing the rate of cyber crimes, that is role of intermediaries. Now let's come to know who are intermediaries and what are their liability in the ITA. Intermediaries is any person who on behalf of another holds any information, receives any information and stores any information, but for another person. Actually, I will tell you in a very easy language. An intermediary is a person who provides a platform to the other person to get the information. I would give you an example. For example, Google is an intermediary. Now what Google does, it provides you a platform. Whenever you are searching for anything, what you do, you direct it to another website altogether. So what Google is doing, it is providing you a platform and you are directed to some other site. And I am the end user. Now I am getting the information via Google, but I am getting it from some other website. So what intermediary is doing? It is providing me a platform. It is facilitating the internet facilities to me, or it is working as a platform to deliver the information to me. And in ITA, the definition of intermediary is very broad. Like they have tried to inculcate everyone possible that provide access to internet into the definition of intermediaries. Let's take a view on the third slide. Who are intermediaries? Third slide talks about telecom service providers. So, telecom service providers are also considered as intermediaries, such as, if you can see on the screen, Airtel, Jio, Docomo, Vodafone, all these are covers under intermediary. As what they are doing, they are holding the data of their consumers now. That's why they will be considered as intermediaries. Now let's come to the other one. The next one, that is the fourth slide, that talks about network service providers. Even network service providers are also intermediaries, which provides the network for you, may it be telecommunication or other way possible, such as Airtel, IBM, we have Banco, we have Docomo. All these will also be network service providers. Next, that is the fifth slide we see, internet service providers. So even the internet service providers are in the definition of intermediaries, such as Hathway. We have, many of us have the internet connection of Hathway. Even that is also intermediary. Then Vodafone, we have Airtel, then Excitel. So all these will also be covered under definition of intermediaries. Next, the sixth slide, that talks about intermediaries being
hello.
the service.
Hi. Hello. The slides are not changing.
Yeah, I've changed.
Okay, the slides are not changing.
Yeah,
I can
changed.
only see like the task at one. No. I think every other people are also facing the same issues. You can check the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, we are not able to, even in my thing, I'm not able to see the slides.
Yeah, I am also not seeing the slides.
Okay. Right. Can you see now?
Yes, yes.
No, sir. On first slide.
No, sir,
Not
it is
any
still the
change.
first slide is also only there. It has not been available right now.
Is it, can you see?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No.
It's not changing. It's not changing.
There is only one red and white slide show, and it's been stuck on that since I think the
there is a
beginning.
problem. Can I start the meeting again? Maybe there is a problem.
Sir, should I share my screen? If this is possible?
Just
I
maybe.
think
Yeah,
best
it's
is
possible.
Bhavna, if you can share your screen and
Sure,
present.
sir,
That will
sure. Sure,
be.
I can share.
I'm stopping my share.
Okay, sure. Yes, I'm sharing my screen. Just a second. Just give me a second. I'll share the screen.
Why jawaan hai pagal?
Problem.
Yes, can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see
yes,
it.
Yes.
you're still
Okay,
freezing.
fine. So I'll just come back to who are intermediaries. As I've told that, see, here we come that network service providers are also considered as intermediaries. So who we have here? Airtel, then Banco, then IBM, then Docomo, and many other. Whoever is the internet network service provider will be considered as an intermediary. Now let's come to the other one. Internet service provider. Many of us have the connection of Hathway, then Excitel, Airtel, Vodafone on your phone or on your home as well. So even that will be considered as intermediaries. Next we come now, search engines. As I've given you the example as well, whenever you are searching anything on the search engines such as Google, Yahoo, Bing, whenever you search for the information, what is available, it is just a platform, right? You are directed to some other website and then you get the information. And you are the end user because you get the information. Who is delivering you? The search engine, that is the Google. Who is delivering you the information? Google.
Yeah, please go on.
Yes, sir. So Google, Yahoo, and all the other one will be the intermediaries. Now, next come the social networking sites. Even the social networking sites are also intermediaries, such as Facebook, then Twitter, Skype, YouTube, and any that are mentioned on the website are also intermediaries. Next, we come on online payment sites. Even online payment sites are also considered as intermediaries, such as PayPal. Then we have Paytm, MobiKwik, Freecharge, Google Pay. All this will be our intermediaries. Next, we come to online marketplaces and even cyber cafes that you have in your colonies or somewhere else. Even they are considered as intermediaries because what they are doing, they're providing you the internet access. That's why they are the intermediaries. Now, Flipkart, Snapdeal, Myntra, Google, Vivo, and all these will be considered as online marketplaces. Will be the intermediaries. So this is all we have with regard to intermediaries. Now we are coming to, I hope everybody has understand what is the meaning of intermediaries, and it is very important to understand who are intermediaries, because only then you will be understand what is the liability on them if they breach the data of an individual, whoever they are holding in the IT. As per section 79, the intermediaries shall not be liable for any kind of liability if any kind of data is transmitted by them or available or hosted by them to other parties. To say that if any unlawful content is available...
Bhavna, just a second. I am muting everybody and you unmute yourself.
Okay, sure.
I am muting everybody and you have to mute yourself, unmute yourself. Now you...
Okay, fine.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So, what is the liability of intermediaries in, as we have seen that intermediary is such a broad term that almost everybody is included in the definition of intermediaries. Now, what is the liability of intermediaries that we have in the Information Technology Act? As per section 79, intermediaries are prima facie, as in on the face, the intermediaries are exempted from any kind of liability if any information is made available to them or hosted by them to the third party. That is to say, if on the online platform of any intermediary, any unlawful content is available and they are aware of that, in that case they will not be liable for any kind of liability of that thing. But as per the draft intermediary guidelines, they will be held liable only when they adhere to certain guidelines that are provided by the Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology in the intermediary guidelines that are provided by the ministry. Now, what are those intermediary guidelines? I will tell you a few of them so that you will understand how they can not be grabbed from the liability of intermediaries. Such as intermediaries have to adhere to certain due diligence. Only then they will not be exempted from any kind of liability. For example, if Google gets to know that there is any unlawful content available on the website, for example, if I complain to Google that there is some unlawful activity that is going on the platform and they do not remove it within 36 hours, then they will be held liable under section 79. Along with this, if any intermediary is originating the data or modifying the data that is available on their platform in some unlawful manner, in that case also they will be held liable. along with this, there are few other things also that they have to adhere to, and if they do not, then they will be charged liable. But do you understand the gravity that if any unlawful content is available on the intermediary platform, then they will not be held liable for any kind of penalty as per the IT Act. Now, this is all we have related to data privacy in our country right now. We can say that this is just the primary framework that we have. If we say that do we have any modified regulations or do we have any separate act altogether that deals with data privacy, then it's a big no for that. We do not have any modified regulations or separate act. Though we have much hopes from Personal Data Protection Bill that is yet pending in the Parliament. Before discussing about data protection bill, let's talk about COPPA and GDPR. As a draft Personal Data Protection Bill is largely derived from COPPA and GDPR. So let's just take an overview of what these law talks about and what these laws are actually. Let's start with COPPA. See, COPPA is a legislature by USA, that is Child Online Privacy Protection Act by the USA. USA has done a commendable job when it comes to data privacy of the children specifically, because this act specifically deals with the problems of the children that they face related to data privacy on the cyberspace. Now, as per COPPA, a child is that person who is under the age of 13. So in USA, a child is one who is under the age of 13. Okay. So what are the conditions for the websites and the online service providers? Now, whenever they have to ask for or they have to collect the information from the child that is under 13, they have to send a notice to the parents of the child, and after that only they can take the parental consent of the child. After this, they can collect the data of the child. So, and it is not just a notice, it is a proper notice that contains a minute information, every minute information of the website, such as they have to tell that for what purpose they are taking the information of the child, what are the market practices they perform, and what are the other things, whether the information that is being collected, it will be shared to the publicly or to the third person, or will it be used for the internal purpose only. Everything has to be mentioned in the notice. That has to be sent to the parents. Parents, after reading it all together, they have to send it to the authority, and only then they can take the information. Now there is a consent of parental consent.
Bhavna, I'm muting all, and then you unmute yourself.
Okay. Yes, so I will continue with that. The concept of parental consent, that is a mechanism taken up by COPPA of USA. So what is there? If any website or service provider, internet service provider has to collect the information, they have to take the parental consent of the parent before taking the information of the child. And even when they take the parental consent, they will verify it, whether it is given by the parent only or with somebody else. So they verify that you are the parent only or somebody else is given the consent on somebody else's behalf. So for this, there is Federal Trade Commission that oversees the implementation of COPPA. Now, FTC, they have approved a number of verification methods that they use for the verification of the parental consent. For example, they use print and send method. In print and send method, what they do, they print the form for which the information has to be collected, and they send it to the parents. They have to fill it, they have to sign the consent form, then they have to send it to the authority. Another thing is video conferencing. What they do, they do a video conference to the parents and they take the consent on the video conference only. Then there is a telephonic conversation which is made possible by the trained personnel. They take the proper interview of the parents and then take the consent thereof. Another thing is there is knowledge-based questionnaire test method. what happens, they make a proper questionnaire which includes a lot many questions which can be answered by a parent only, and a child of 13 years or below that cannot answer those questions. So it is made in such a way that the parents can only answer those questions, and based on that they verify whether they are the parents or not. So this was all about COPPA. Now let's come to GDPR. GDPR is a legislature by EU, that is European Union. Now GDPR is General Data Protection Regulation. As the name suggests, it is not a particular law that deals with child right privacy, but it is a general law. But it contains few provisions that deal with child right privacy on the cyberspace. Now, as per EU laws, a child is a person who is under the age of 16. Now, there in USA it was what? It was 13. Now, here in EU it is 16. So, in EU also, before taking the information from the child who is under 16, they have to take the permission of the children. They have to take the permission of the child, of the parents of the child. Without that, they cannot take the information. And in the regulation, they have given clear instructions that whenever any website or any online service provider is accessing to different countries, they have to change their age verification process and privacy policy. For example, Facebook is dealing with every other country. So if Facebook is handling in USA, then they have to modify their age criteria according to 13. Okay, and if it is handling in EU, then they have to modify their age verification process as per age 16. Along with this, they have to also modify the privacy policy. So all these have to be taken into consideration. Now, this was all that we had for COPPA and GDPR. Now, let's finally come to what is Personal Data Protection Bill 2019 of India that we are still waiting to come. Let's talk about the particular provisions that deal with data privacy in the bill. Now, as per Personal Data Protection Bill of India, the age of child is still considered to be under 18 only in the line of other laws. That, for example, we have Indian Contract Act, we have Majority Act. In that also the age is 18, and in Personal Data Protection Bill also they have not increased or decreased the age, they have kept it for 18 only. A good thing is that in the bill we have separate chapter altogether that deals with the child rights. That is, it names as personal and sensitive data of the children. As they have said, personal and sensitive data. Now let's understand what is a personal data and what is the difference between sensitive data. See, personal data is any personal information that directly or indirectly identifies you. For example, your name, then your age, your height, your weight, your opinions, then your attributes, your traits. All these will be considered as your personal data. Now come to sensitive data. What is sensitive data? See, sensitive data as per the bill is any data that deals with a particular information. For example, if any data that deals with your financial things or that deals with your health matters and your sexual orientations, then your intersex status, also your religious beliefs, and whenever any website is asking for your religion or your political beliefs, even that is considered as sensitive data. So if you're filling any form for any job purpose or any admission purpose and they are asking for your religion, then that will be a sensitive data. Let's go to the specific section that talks about data privacy of the child and what will be the implication thereon. As per section 16, a data fiduciary. Let's talk about who are data fiduciary. We have discussed about intermediaries and body corporates. Even they are data fiduciary. See, a data fiduciary is any person who takes your information and he is the one who is processing your information, and he is the one who is deciding for what purpose your information will be used. For example, if I say Facebook is a data fiduciary because he is taking your information and he is processing your information as and when he likes to do that. Similarly, Google, then any other company, maybe your educational institutes, if they are collecting your information, they will be considered as data fiduciary. So let's come, what is the role of data fiduciary in section 716? See, a data fiduciary is any entity and it is obligated on them that if they take the information of any child, they have to process it in the best interest of the child. See, this is an obligation on them. They cannot process the child's information that can harm the person, that can harm the child. They have to always use the information in the best possible manner or in the best possible interest of the child. So it is obligatory on them. Secondly, we have also taken up the concept of parental consent. In the bill, if any data fiduciary have to collect the information for the child, firstly, they have to take the parental consent of the child. Only then they can take the information, otherwise they cannot take the information of the child. Now, how they will take the parental consent and what will be the mechanism, that is not mentioned in the bill. For that, we have to for the regulations to come. Once the regulation comes, we'll get a clear picture how they will be taking the parental consent. Next, we do that if any data fiduciary fails to comply with the provision of section 16, there is very high penalty. There is a penalty of minimum 15 crores. I'm telling again, it's 15 crores of penalty minimum and 4% of the turnover of the fiduciary. So whichever is maximum, that penalty will be charged upon them. So this was all we have for the child right privacy in the bill. At the end, I would like to conclude by telling you all what are the recommendations and suggestions by us that we want to give you regarding what should be the changes should be there in the bill, and it is mandatory. See, if you see in the bill, a child of 10 years and a child of 17 years is on the same footing. But we actually know that a child of 10 years and a child of 17 years do not think in a similar manner. They have a totally different mindset and different maturity level. So, as per my thinking, that the bill should come up with separate consent mechanism for different age groups. For example, if any kind of data has to be collected for educational purpose, I don't think that is a 17-year-old have to take the consent of the parents. Though it might be needed for a child of a 10-year-old because he might not understand certain things. But for a 17-year-old, it is not necessary. So for that, I should think there should be separate mechanisms, separate regulation for different group of children. Secondly, there is nothing to talk about opt-out option. See, opt-out option is what? When a child was when a person was under 18, his parent gave consent for on his behalf. Now, when the person has attained the majority, he should have an option to opt out of those regulations or consent that his parents has given. But it is nothing in the bill that has not been mentioned in the bill yet. Another thing is that I feel that there might be a failure of the personal data protection bill as ITA has drastically failed to combat the issue of child cybercrimes. Because as an ITA, special attention has not been given to the child. They only dealt with the e-commerce. Similarly, personal data protection bill also might fail. Reason being, they have also not given so much attention as much required in the present time, which should be given to the child's rights in the cyberspace. So I think that it is the high time that we should have a separate law altogether to deal with the matter. Now, another thing that I found a flaw is, as per section 25, see, whenever there is a breach of the data of the child, he will not be informed, not even his parents will be informed. But who will be informed? A data fiduciary will inform to the Data Protection Authority that there is a breach of data. Though it has to be my right. If my child's data is infringed, I should be informed firstly. But there is no such provision in the bill. Who is informed? The Data Protection Authority. So this should be changed. Along with the information is provided to Data Protection Authority, they should also give the information to the child and the parent itself who have given the consent. So last one I would like to share is that in the bill, there is only a monetary penalty. There is no imprisonment or sentencing. I think there has to be imprisonment and sentencing as well. For example, you think that if there is any breach of data of any child, and because of that, the child commits the suicide. See, the harm is very big. I don't think a suicide or any mental trauma or any kind of mental illness that might cause will surface with the monetary value. So there has to be some imprisonment of maybe 1 year or as per depending upon the harm caused. So it should be like that as well. It should be provided with that. So this was all on the legal aspect of data privacy that is available in India. At last, I would like to say that if you face any kind of cybercrime that is happening with you, just do not sit. It is your duty and it is very important for you that you have to report the crime. And if you see anybody else is facing the cybercrime and if you see on the online platform any unlawful content is available, report it immediately. See, in Facebook, in Instagram, and then in Flipkart, you will see an option of report a problem. In that you can absolutely report a problem and they will revert you back. It is obligatory on them. If you read their privacy policy, it will be clearly written that within how much time they will revert you. Mostly it is 24 hours they will revert you back on that. So it is very important. If you are facing any kind of cybercrime, do report. Along with this, we also have cybercrime portal. The website is www.cybercrime.gov.in. In that also you can report a crime. See, we have less time right now, so we cannot share so much of information that how you can report. But once you get into the website, we can have other webinars as well on this topic, that how we have to report an issue. But before that, it was important for us to understand what are the legal aspects. Now we are done with it. That might be in future, it will be helpful for us that we can report a problem easily. If any of you facing any problem, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to Flare for any kind of help. We will be really happily available to you all. Please write to us if you face any kind of problem. With this, I would end by saying be safe, be informed, be vigilant. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. It was a very nice presentation, very detailed. I would just like to combine a few things which you have already said. Is the main issue of consent of the parents. In Indian context, if you see, or many developing countries, when we are talking about consent, it is always about informed consent. So it is very, very difficult in the Indian context where we have so many people, even people who are in the middle class, upper class, who are educated, they are not really kind of tech. They are not really very educated in the technology matters. They are not very educated in the legal matters. So when they are giving consent, it doesn't actually mean that they have given a real consent. Despite their age, it is actually the consent of the parents of the child, mainly because of the age factor, meaning the child is not capable. You have raised a very good point that there is also a concept of evolving capacity. Like a child who is 11 years old is not same as a child who is 17 years and 6 months old. A 17-year child is more close to a 19-year-old so-called adult rather than an 11-year-old child. So that is one thing. And the parents themselves, they do not have the capacity. So we do not have a public education program. The Personal Data Protection Bill, the Intermediary Act and the IT Act, there should be also a public education program for this to be actually successful. This is point number one. The second point is the point that I was raising in my presentation was of big data. we are talking about personal data. We are talking about sensitive data. So this is protected, right? So, but when this small piece of data is combined with other data that is available on the net in the digital space, then it becomes sensitive data. That one single piece of data which has been shared may not be harmful. If it is put to a wrong use, may not be harmful to the child or to the community or to the state or to the society. But if that data is combined with huge number of other data sets, then it becomes, and that data is also, big data is combined with metadata, then it becomes, suppose I am talking about, say, our Aadhaar data. Aadhaar data, when it gets combined with our data of our financial data and our data of our date of birth, our mother's name, our father's name, our place of birth, then it becomes a very, very dangerous proposition. So we do not the whole world still does not have any regulation on big data. Big data is also a very useful thing. Like Aadhaar data is also very, very useful in curbing the losses. Because of the Aadhaar data linked with the financial data, we are now have direct bank transfers. So we do not have problem of, we do not have a problem of leakage. Leakage has been minimized. You can also see that big data, suppose what big data is put, I'll give you an example of a good use of big data. Like our hospitalization patterns, our disease, how many people actually use the facility of insurance for what kind of diseases, how many people are admitted in the hospital for how many hours. This is all data. And when we try and understand that how many people use it for OPD, like, so when a new insurance policy will be devised, then will the OPD will come under the insurance? How will that decision be made? It will be made on analysis of this huge big data. So there is also an usefulness of big data, but there is in the hindsight, there is always a danger. So we should, the main thing here is that we all should be very, very careful. There has to be a very, very robust public education program for the data privacy. Actually, when we talk about data privacy, it is a misnomer actually. According to my understanding, it should be personal. Who is to be protected? Data is to be protected or the person is to be protected? We put data in the center stage and say that data is to be protected. No, the person has to be protected. It is the protection of the person. It is the protection of the child. That has to be primary. Now we have some 10 minutes left. So if we can have questions. Yeah, please, one by one. Anybody wants to ask a question or a suggestion or a remark? Anybody wants to ask anything?
Mr. Ajay, all this information was, I'm Garima Singh from Udain Care, Delhi.
Yeah.
I just wanted to request you if this information can be shared for future reference, because it was a lot of information and very well delivered, but it's very difficult to register all at once. So can we have a little bit?
We will put this, we have recorded this, we will put this recording on our
Yes.
YouTube channel.
Okay, okay, surely we'll refer there. Thank you so much.
Anybody else wants to make a remark? Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Am I audible?
Yes.
I'm Nikhil Kharod. I'm a pediatrician.
Yeah.
The problem of children in rural areas and in the urban centers, they are different. How does the bill, capture the differences, because the child protection is equally important in both urban and rural sector.
ठीक है बस यही लग रही है मेरी
Hello.
Yeah. At this point of time, there is no such difference in terms of rural and urban like any other bill. If you talk of any other bill, any other act, there is no such differentiation of rural or urban areas. Even the IT Act, there is no difference. Even the IPC, POXO Act, these acts do not differentiate between rural and urban areas. There is no such difference.
हम कैसे कैसे तुम सबके लिए इंफॉर्मेशन इक्वल है बस मुझे अपने लिए लिखना है
So the Data Protection Authority, when it will be constituted, then the guidelines that will be there for the Data Protection Authority at different level, there it will be.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lucky.
Anybody wants to ask a question?
Again, it was a great piece of information.
Is this bill?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Ajay, is there any future consultation plan for this bill at all?
There already has been a round of consultation. The government had asked for feedback. A lot of feedback had come. The bill has already been revised. Because of this, otherwise this bill would have been passed in the previous
Sharma,
the intermediary guidelines.
Mr. Ajay.
Thank you.
ये एवरीवन को था और ये अजित चौहान को चला गया सिर्फ.
Anybody wants to ask a question or make a remark or a suggestion?
Ajay Sinha. मेरा नाम लकी. Thank you, Lucky. Ajay Sinha ने भावना शर्मा.
डिलीट नहीं होगा.
Anybody
wants to ask a question? तो प्रश्न पूछिए हमें.
हम थोड़ी भेजना था यार. चैट में भेज.
तूने भेजा मैंने थोड़ी भेजा.
मैंने यहाँ पे चैट
तो हमारा इन आनंद ना सुन.
देखिए FM iPhone to everyone ऐसे आ रहा है.
ये अपना ट्रस्टी मेन.
अजय जी.
जी निखिल जी. Sir, please.
We would like to be educated about the use of website, for reporting cybercrime. I think it's very important because these things are totally missed out.
We will keep a session separately because how to report on the cybercrime.gov.in. Bhavna would be very happy to take that session. So we will have a session separately on that.
Ajay Sinha.
So we will do that.
Thank you.
We will keep a session on that. Different types of reporting.
And we would also like to have a look at the bill.
I have everybody's email ID. I will share it share it with everybody. I will share all the suggestions.
That will be a good thing.
बीजू नाम लखवाओ.
And the previous version,
Sharma.
New version of the bill.
Thank you.
क्या करेगी?
अजय को चला गया.
So we will end now. Thank you everybody. The main point that we are making in today's session is that there is a severe need for public education. Like we are seeing in this case of coronavirus, there is a severe need that has emerged of public health. Similarly, for anything to be successful in terms of knowledge and skill or law or technology, there has to be a big push on public education. Meaning the children and the teachers and the caregivers have to be educated on the various provisions of the bill, the safety measures, the different technologies, how do they operate, what is the privacy control. Because as an organization, we try our level best to reach maximum number of people. But until it becomes a part of the public education system, then it is very, very difficult. Howsoever many laws you make, guidelines you make, it may be very, very good. Any good result. Okay, thank you for everybody. Thank you, Bhavna, and thank you everybody who has put a question and makes great suggestion. We will see you all in the next session. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good.
Thank you, Ajay and Bhavna.
Thank you. Bye.